After a dominant Sunday night victory over the Washington Commanders, the Seahawks enter the midpoint of the season at 6-2 and in a virtual tie atop the NFC. On the day of the NFL trade deadline, I'm joined by the host of the Ringer NFL show, Sheil Kapadia. Let's light 'em up.
I'm Jacson Bevins, and this is Cigar Thoughts.
Welcome back to the Cigar Lounge. I am Jacson Bevins, and along with my obligatory producer, Mike Barwin, this is the Cigar Thoughts podcast. And quick note, I am re-recording this part of the show because less than a minute after Sheil and I finished, the Seahawks traded for Saints receiver Rashid Shaheed, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give my thoughts on it. And it's funny because in this episode, Sheil and I actually discussed Rashid as a potential target for the Seahawks. And here's the thing. If you're not going to go like A-list receiver, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better fit for what the Seahawks are doing right now than Rashid Shaheed. Right now, the rumored compensation is a 4th and a 5th round pick. Obviously, you love to have more bites of the apple on day 3 of the NFL draft any given year. But we also have to be honest with ourselves about the hit rate for those players. And Rashid Shaheed is already a hit. And even more so when Clint Kubiak was calling the plays for New Orleans last year. He, by a lot of measures, outperformed their top 10 pick, Chris Olave, as a receiver. And honestly, has kind of been doing that this year as well. He has been dominating targets recently. He is a field stretcher. You know, when Clint Kubiak had the Saints leading the NFL in scoring early last year, it was Shaheed who was the beneficiary, who was taking the top off of these two high safety defenses. The Seahawks, as Mina Kimes pointed out recently on her show, have been absolutely feasting passing against single high defenses. But as teams continue to lead in to two safeties over the top, one of the ways that you beat that is by scaring them with a deep threat that Seattle, frankly, hasn't really had. They have done a great job of winning in that 15 to 25 yard downfield range, which is high difficulty stuff. They've been incredible. But the Seahawks aren't making safeties turn their backs to the quarterback and run. Rashid Shaheed does that. But he's not just like an MVS streak down the field, Gabe Davis, stretch the defense so other people can eat. He is a professional route runner with juice. He can win short. He can win intermediate. He gives the offense the aspect that they need as teams inevitably begin to key in on Jacson Smith-Njigba in the second half of the season. He, I think, at this point is a better receiver than Cooper Kupp. I think he's going to take those snaps. Probably pushes Torrey Horton back to the fringe a little bit, especially with all the 12 and 13 personnel that Seattle's been running, keeping a fullback in. But Horton, it's his first year, plenty of time for him to grow into the role. Rashid Shaheed changes the trajectory of this offense immediately. I could not be happier about this acquisition at that trade cost. We're talking about probably a late 4th, probably a late 5th. And you just don't get a lot of contribution from people drafted 120th and 150th overall. So if that's the cost of pushing more chips into the middle of the table with, let's be honest, the most competitive Seahawks roster that this team has had in probably 6 years, 7 years, I think it's worth it all day, every day. The Saints, by the time they're competitive again, if ever, Shaheed wasn't going to be a part of that situation anyway. So for them to get a couple of extra draft picks, it's probably a mild win for them. I think it's a huge win for the Seahawks. I could not be happier about this trade. We'll see what else comes down, but I needed to hop back on, re-record, because this was big news. And honestly, we missed it on air by 1 minute with Sheil. So with that said, let's get to the show. And I've said it before, But to me, the coolest part about doing this show is the relationships with the people in the industry that I look up to the most, and today's guest is no exception. But first, cigars and whiskey. Cigar Thoughts is proud to be partnered with Seattle Cigar Concierge and Balvenie Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Seattle Cigar Concierge and I have teamed up to release 2 versions of high-quality Cigar Thoughts stogies, both of which you can purchase by following the link on the show page or by visiting cigarthoughtsnfl.com. Mike and I, we love doing this show. And we understand it. We have not been recording with the consistency that we have in the past. It's killing us. We've had a technical issue with one episode. We've had scheduling issues with a couple of others. And full disclosure, the responsibilities in Mike and I's day jobs have increased. So a little bit higher difficulty level with getting these shows out, but we are committed to doing it because we love it. We love you guys, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So like I said, we really, really enjoy the opportunities to come out and do this. And there are 2 ways that y'all listening and watching can help support it so that we can keep these episodes coming. One is by purchasing the cigars. The other is by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Cigar Thoughts, which you can watch full episodes there. You can see the funny, insightful clips that Mike puts together. Give a thumbs up to the stuff you like. Let us know what you think in the comments. And of course, you can listen to us everywhere you get your podcasts. Now, this past week was extremely interesting from a parity standpoint, as some of the best teams in the NFL had surprising losses, and some teams that I think many of us were ready to count out came up with big wins. For the Seahawks specifically, it was great, as they trounced the Commanders on Sunday Night Football to move into a virtual tie atop the NFC. Joining me to talk about it, and a whole lot more, is a man with some of the best vibes you'll ever come across in this industry. We met during his time covering the Seahawks for ESPN, and I've watched with great joy as his journey has taken him through the ranks. He is now the host of the Ringer NFL show and one of the purest sports fans you'll ever meet. He is Sheil Kapadia. Sheil, how are we doing?
I'm doing well. I was wondering, I don't know if we tell people or not, but we are doing an earlier recording than usual when you and I pod. I was wondering if I would see the cigar or not at this hour. And you know what? You're still puffing away. So I like it. The brand is strong.
The brand is strong. Yeah, this is just my breakfast cigar. It's got nothing to do with the show. Yeah, no, we are recording this Tuesday morning, and it's relevant to point out because at least here on the West Coast thing, it's just about afternoon for Sheil, but it's relevant because today is the NFL trade deadline, and we're going to chat a little bit about some potential moves, some things that maybe you're anticipating or that you would do, but of course, grain of salt with all of that is by the time you guys are watching this and listening to it, the trade deadline will likely have passed already. So it'll be interesting to go back and see how this conversation holds up. But I want to start with that game on Sunday night, which felt like a coming out party for the Mike Macdonald Seahawks, who have been good since he took over, right? 10 wins last year, missed the division title on the 5th tiebreaker, but I don't think they were ever really considered like a true threat. And then this year, number 1 team in DVOA, the only team that's top 5 in DVOA on offense, defense, and special teams. They are absolutely clicking right now. And it's been a long time since I've seen a Seahawks team put out as complete a performance as we saw Sunday night. What was your biggest takeaway once that game was over? Outside, of course, of the Jaden Daniels injury.
Seahawks number 1 in DVOA. I mean, it feels 2012 to 2015, baby. It's back here. I think it was just I thought that was going to be a game where the Commanders really needed it, backs against the wall, season on the line, and I actually thought Washington was going to give them a very good game, and just the pure dominance of that performance. There are different things you look at. Hey, did you beat good teams? How are you in 1-score games? Do you have blowout wins where it just feels like the other team doesn't belong on the same field as you? Like it's varsity versus JV, it's NFL versus college, however you want to phrase it. And that's really what it felt like. I mean, it felt like a miracle when the Seahawks Seahawks did not have a pass play that gained like 20 yards. It was like, oh, okay, that feels like a win for the Commanders. And then defensively, I mean, it felt like a miracle when Jaden Daniels attempted a pass, not completed a pass, attempted a pass. Yes. I mean, his head was spinning back there. So just all those things combined, I think you're right. I think this is the week where people look at it and say, why not the Seahawks? You know, NFC's kind of wide open. I think you can make the case for probably 5 different teams to come out of the NFC, but the Seahawks are absolutely on that list.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of talk about that on the broadcast as, hey, look out now. This is actually a team that maybe these other contenders don't want to see in December and January. And you know, one of the challenges, you know this, you cover a great team, being a Philly guy and hosting the Philly special. Not only do you do National Football League broad scope stuff and do it so well, but you also know what it's like to hone in on a single team and what it's like to balance covering one team and still maintaining some level of separation, some level of objectivity in terms of where they fit in the overall landscape of the league. And I've been fighting that a little bit with the Seahawks because I've been wanting to call them a great team for a few weeks now and have been hesitant to do it. It would almost feel dishonest not to call them a great team right now, in as much as a team can be through 8 games in the season.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they check any box you're looking at. Like, there's no case against it right now. Now, football is a small sample sport. So we're talking about half the season here. And we know that some of the teams we're looking at now won't be the teams we're talking about in January. But I don't think the Seahawks fall into that like fluky fraud watch, any of that bucket. I mean, everything they've done has been impressive. They're so good at producing explosive plays in the passing game. And defensively, I never really had a question. I mean, I did my, offensive and defensive rankings. I think we've talked about before. I post those on the Ringer every summer. And I had the Seahawks as the number 1 defense going into the season. I felt like the match between coaching, scheme, talent, veterans, young players who could surprise, like all of that. I looked at them and I'm like, I think this defense has a chance to be awesome. And then I had the Seahawks as a below average, bottom 10 offense. And I was way wrong about that. So this isn't me tooting my own horn. But the point is that there's nothing, the defense, I don't know how you could have any questions about it. This is 2 years running. This is a coach who's done it for now, different teams, different personnel. So the defense is the defense. If you want to poke any holes in it, I guess you would look at the offense and say they are very run heavy. The run game is not great when they have to play from behind or, they're in a close game. Do you 100% trust it that they're going to be able to create those explosive plays? Again, there's nothing I've seen so far that says, no, I don't trust it. Look at X, Y, and Z. But it's just you haven't totally seen it yet with the quarterback like Sam Darnold in those spots.
One of the things that we've kind of talked about on this show throughout the season, and it was really cool to see Greg Olsen talk about it on Twitter yesterday with regards to this, is the Seahawks give the illusion of being a run-first team because they run so much heavy personnel. But one of the cool things that Clint Kubiak has always done, and that he's doing to a much higher degree now this year, is just passing out of run formations. And it's what allows you to be so successful, so efficient in the play action passing game when, let's just be honest, the Seahawks can't run the football. They're averaging like 3.3 yards per carry, something like that this season. Haven't seen any extended stretch of success from either Ken Walker or Zach Charbonnet. A lot of it just has to do with the blocking. They're pass blocking a lot better than they're run blocking right now, but they are able to, because of personnel, dictate defensive personnel and get heavier defenses on the field because they have tight ends, because they have fullbacks. But then they're passing out of that, and this heavy defense is unable to keep up with certainly Jacson, Smith-Njigba, but also some really exciting young players, these rookies that are starting to emerge. It's such a cool offense that's blending this return of dad football that the Eagles played so well last year on the way to their title, and still taking advantage of the efficiency edge that you get from throwing the football. It's a cool marriage.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, their secret sauce is not, they run the ball at the 4th highest rate in the NFL right now on early downs, but they're 23rd in rushing success rate. So I don't want to say they're wasting those early downs. You could certainly make the case that they don't need to be running the football quite as much on early downs. On the other hand, getting in those heavy personnel packages and what it's forcing defenses to account for, they're first in the NFL in explosive pass rate on early downs. I mean, when they throw the football, Jackson, on first and second downs, they're creating an explosive play 24% of the time. I mean, that is a crazy rate. So this is what I'm interested in going forward.
That's like double what a good rate is.
It's absurd. Yeah. I mean, one out of 4 pass plays turning into an explosive on early downs is absurd. So what I'm looking for going forward is our defense is going to look at this and say, no, sorry, we're just going to play the pass on early downs, and we're not going to counter with bigger bodies. We're going to play pass defense. And if you prove to us that you can run the football down our throats because we're smaller than you on early downs, then go ahead. But we want to see that because we're tired of Jacson, Smith-Njigba catching 35-yard passes all game long and Sam Darnold just throwing dimes downfield off of play action. So that's one thing I'm keeping an eye on. And when that happens, can the Seahawks then really make them pay and say, no, we can definitely run against these looks a lot better. So that's one. And then when you look at just the passing game, it's a matter of when you're in a game script where maybe you're down by 10 in the second half or in the fourth quarter, and now defenses know you have to pass the football. Are you able to do it then? Because I do think part of their secret sauce is, hey, it's an early down. We're lining up big. You don't know what we're going to do. And, we're going to do the thing that you're not expecting us to do. And that's a great way to play. That's worked really well for them. But they've only attempted 48 passes when trailing this season. That's by far the fewest in the NFL. So again, I'm not telling you, when they have to do that, they're not going to be able to do that. I think they very well might be able to do that. I mean, Sam Darnold's been on fire. Like you said, Jacson Smith-Njigba's been awesome. That's just, as I'm looking ahead to the second half of the season and all these contenders, that's kind of the thing I have my eye on with the Seahawks.
Yeah, it feels like with the way that they're approaching early downs, and this is something that I have been begging for. Listeners of the show probably got so sick of me hammering this drum that playing for third and manageable is playing to lose. And it was so frustrating watching the Seahawks offense for so long just try to get 3 to 5 yards on first down and then try to get another 2 to 4 yards on third down. And then inevitably, they were not a good third down team. When you can't run in short yardage, then there's no point in playing for short yardage. I've been screaming, just the best third down offense is to try and avoid it completely.
Yes.
And Seattle is doing that. They are going for the sticks on every single play. And that stretches the defense. It's like a basketball team that's got a bunch of great shooters that can pull up from 30 feet. You have to defend more court when that's the case. And that is what Seattle is making opposing defenses do, is just defend more field on early downs. And it's super encouraging to see. It's the part of the Clint Kubiak offense that we saw in New Orleans when they were lighting the league on fire the first couple weeks last year, that I wasn't sure if that was real or mirage because they had all those injuries and then were just terrible offensively the rest of the season. No, they're doing it. They're making it work. And this combination of Sam Darnold to Jacson Smith-Njigba is really testing the limits of efficiency in the NFL. We're gonna circle back to Sam Darnold in a second, but I want to talk about what Jacson Smith-Njigba is doing right now. He leads the NFL in receiving yards by 100. He is on pace to break Calvin Johnson's receiving yardage record in a season. And yes, he's going to have a 17th game to do it, but the way that he's doing it, when Calvin Johnson had his 1,964 yards with the Lions, he had 220 targets. Jacson Smith-Njigba is on pace for 169 targets.
Wow.
And breaking that record. Yards per route run is one of the more indicative stats that you can have for a wide receiver in terms of, you look at the list of guys who are leading that category every year, and it matches the eye test. It's also very predictive for success in the future. Guys with high yards per route run tend to continue to have high yards per route run. The NFL has never seen a receiver average 4 yards per route run, which is literally just your receiving yards divided by the number of routes that you have run. If you hit 3, you're talking Cooper Kupp Triple Crown. You're talking Tyreek Hill's when he almost had 2,000 yards. That's what 3 yards per route run does. Puka Nacua is number 2 in the NFL at 3.2 yards per route run. Jacson Smith-Njigba is at 4.5 halfway through the season. Unbelievable efficiency that we're seeing right now. It feels unsustainable, but it's felt unsustainable for 2 months.
It's unbelievable. He's my offensive player of the year choice at the halfway point. I was just thinking about this earlier today as I was going through the numbers. Yeah, he would be my choice right now. You laid it out well there. Not only, the comparison between him and every other receiver in the NFL, but he's got 948 receiving yards. No one else on the Seahawks has more than 293. So it's not like, every
They're not surprising anybody.
They're not surprising. I mean, that's crazy. To have more than 600 receiving yards than any other player on the team halfway through the point. I mean, I don't know a way to look that up. I honestly can't imagine that that's happened in recent memory in the NFL. That is absurd. So yeah, every team, when they come into a game against the Seattle Seahawks and they're game planning for their passing game, they're saying, what's our plan for Jacson Smith-Njigba? And it hasn't mattered. It feels like every time they drop back, he's getting open. He's making a terrific catch. The chemistry between him and Sam Darnold, it's like they've been playing together for 12 years. It's ridiculous. And the yards per route run numbers. I mean, I was just looking at the last 10 years. There have been 1,067 wide receivers who have run at least 200 routes.
Okay.
Over 1,000, and none of them has had a number close to 4.47 yards per route run. I mean, first out of over 1,000. Now, to your point, let's see where it is at the end of the season, and it'll come down a little, but he absolutely has a chance to have like the highest mark there of any wide receiver in who knows how long. So it has been unbelievable.
It's one of those situations where you have to like make the graph bigger to get his plot point way up in the top right. You'll usually see these 4-quadrant graphs, and you've got a big old jumble in the middle. Pareto principle, 80% of the guys are right there, kind of around it, and then you'll have some outliers, and then he is just so far top right. It's absurd. Is he going to finish averaging 4.5 yards per out run? No, but he has so much margin to come down from that and still put up a historical season. That's incredible. And so much of that has to do with the confidence that Sam Darnold is playing with right now. That first half, I really, really try not to be hyperbolic on the show when talking about the Seahawks. I am struggling to remember a pocket passing performance in one half as good as Sam Darnold going 16 for 16 for 282 yards and 4 touchdowns to rookies.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And it's not like, for some of these quarterbacks, you can make the case, well, it's the supporting cast, it's the play, Jacson Smith-Njigba is awesome. I don't know that you would look at the rest of the supporting cast and go, oh man, he's just set up to complete 20 passes in a row. You wouldn't, Clint Kubiak, I think people had high hopes for. It's not like this is somebody who's done it for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years where they just can take any quarterback and make it work. So yeah, honestly, I've had to totally reshape my thoughts on Sam Darnold because I thought even last year with the Vikings, I didn't trust it. I mean, we were at this time last year and I was still going, I don't really trust this because we had never seen anything like this before where a quarterback had ranked so poorly statistically for however many years it was, 5 years, 6 years. I don't remember the exact number before he got to Minnesota, but had been so bad and then flipped it to the point where they were this efficient quarterback. There have been situations where you look at it and say, that guy was in a bad situation. Let's put him in a better situation. It can look better. And it's been kind of hit or miss. Like sometimes it has made him better. It's never made him look like this before. And so I've had to rethink kind of how I look at quarterbacks and, hey, don't count anybody out. Cause I'm a back of the baseball card guy, whenever I'm doing my analysis, I'm like all summer, what has this quarterback been before? Okay. They've played in the league for 6 years. Well, that's probably what they're going to be at this spot. And then you adjust a little bit for situation. What has this play caller been before? All right, well, has his talent been better or worse? Okay, adjust for that, but they're probably going to be in that neighborhood. Head coach, all of it. That's how I have done my analysis. And this has been the year of the reclamation quarterbacks, and Sam Darnold is leading the charge.
Well, I'm super glad you brought that up, because this, I think, is one of the most fascinating philosophical discussions in football. And in your defense, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, that approach gives you the right answer. Yeah. It is rare that we see offensive coordinators and quarterbacks break the mold to the degree that we're seeing in Seattle right now. But we focus so much on whether quarterbacks are good or not, and so little on this nature versus nurture idea. I think it's, 6 of the last 8 or 8 of the last 10 head coaches to have had a quarterback taken number 1 overall have been fired within a year. It happened again this year with the Titans. Like, it's a death sentence to take a quarterback number 1 overall. This is why I'm always harping against tanking when your team is struggling and just losing and letting this culture of losing creep into your locker room, because you're going to be able to draft a savior if you do it. It doesn't happen. And so many of these guys, we're talking about early round draft picks that have resuscitated, right? We're talking about Sam Darnold. Baker Mayfield is another one. Daniel Jones this year, right? These guys were the high picks, and they didn't save it. You look at the 2021 draft class, and 5 quarterbacks taken. This is going to be one of the great all-time classes, and it's Trevor Lawrence, who at best is treading water. It's Justin Fields. It's Zach Wilson. It's Mac Jones. Like, these quarterbacks haven't saved their franchises. And when they do have success, it's when they go to a mature organization who can put a situation around them. I think Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings said it best when he said that organizations fail young quarterbacks more than young quarterbacks fail organizations. And this is, I've taken an endless amount of grief, and I get it. I deserve it for being so hard on Seattle's decision to move on from Geno Smith and go to Sam Darnold. And, there's context that, I could spend a whole episode pointing to, justify where I was coming from, et cetera, et cetera. I was wrong. I was wrong on that. And it is important, however, to point out that, one, nobody who was like, oh yeah, get Geno out of here, thank God, here comes Sam. No one was predicting him to be leading the NFL in virtually every efficiency metric, right? This is not within the range of expectation for anybody. Yeah. But the other thing is, this is so much healthier of an offensive environment from a play calling standpoint than what Geno Smith or other recent quarterbacks have had with Shane Waldron and Ryan Grubb, guys who are never going to sniff play calling responsibilities in the NFL again, likely. Environment matters so much, and it feels like Seattle has built an incredibly supportive environment for Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I think it's a tough conversation. I think the environment probably sets the floor, the supporting cast, the coaching, but maybe the quarterback sets dictates the ceiling, is what it kind of feels like to me. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I don't know. I think you could still argue that it's not like like I like what they're doing. I think if you just kind of ranked every situation in the NFL as most quarterback friendly to least quarterback friendly, like I don't think the Seahawks would be in like the top 5.
No, certainly. Certainly. And I don't want to overstate that point.
Right.
It's mostly in contrast to what it's been with Waldron and Grubb. But you're right. This is not McVay. This is not Shanahan. This is not O'Connell with Jefferson and Addison. What Darnold had last year, I think we would both say is a better environment for a quarterback than what he has this year. And he's playing better this year than he did last year when he was getting MVP vote talk.
And Geno's playing worse, and he's in a different situation now.
He's in a terrible situation.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you, so it's tough. And then I think sometimes it's just like maybe a guy just got better. Like I don't know.
These guys are working their asses off every day to get better, right? Like it's not as static as we want it to be. And it's a huge credit to Sam Darnold, who has been very very forthright from his opening press conference with the Seahawks about admitting what he struggled with in the past and how hard he's worked to address those concerns.
He just seems like a nice guy. Like, quarterbacks are not usually normal. I'm like, every time I see a Sam Darnold interview, I'm like, this guy seems like a nice guy who, any cool guy. Anyone he's crossing paths with in the building is probably like, yeah, I'm cool with Sam. Yeah, I like, he's not trying to take all the credit. He doesn't seem weird now. Every quarterback is weird. So I'm not going to say he's not weird. He probably is weird, but he doesn't seem as weird as most other quarterbacks. So, and there are outliers in sports. I mean, this is why we watch. This is why it makes it so fun to try to analyze, and you're wrong all the time. Sometimes there are outliers. Like, I wouldn't go into next season and be like, if I'm another team, and be like, look at what the Seahawks got with Sam Darnold. We can do that with player X. I mean, maybe you can, but it probably is more the exception where
he was a top 5 pick for a reason.
Yeah, he had the traits. He came into the league very young. He was in a horrible situation. And then he goes, spends a year with Kyle Shanahan, which, he says specifically that year really helped a lot. Just Brock Purdy, Kyle, whatever he learned in that year seemed to really be big for his development. And it's like, you don't have the pressure of having press conferences every week and having to play every week and seeing your name. So you're just kind of, all right, how can you're almost doing like a mid-career internship there in San Francisco. Then you got a shot in Minnesota where the expectations are just so different. And to your point, the environment is just so different, and you kind of feel supported, and you build that confidence back up, and to the point where you become a free agent last offseason, and you're like, hey, I'm a different guy than I was 3-4 years ago, and I can go somewhere and I'm going to be successful. So, I don't know. It's hard to know. It's always hard in the NFL. Like, we always try to be like, the trend is this, I even said it, it's the reclamation year of the reclamation quarterback. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I heard that.
Maybe just a couple weird things happened this year and it's going to be different next year, but whatever it is, he has made it work. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And it's something where it's hard not to look at a small set of data points and just assume a trend, right? Like, last year was the year of running the ball, right? The best teams ran the ball well and had great running backs. Well, they all stayed healthy, right? Like, that's not necessarily something that you're going to be able to predict moving forward. And, it is just a huge credit to Sam Darnold. The last thing that I want to say about that is it's amazing what the Midas touch of coaches like Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay have, where quarterbacks, Daniel Jones was on the Vikings last year.
Yeah.
And he's killing it for the Colts, right? Like, Baker Mayfield spent 2 weeks with Sean McVay. All of a sudden, he's back on the trajectory that was expected of him from day one. And we don't have to spend any time talking about it, but it just brings me back to one of the takes that I hold strongest is that the biggest market inefficiency in the NFL is what we pay coaches. In a league where we have free agent guards that their team didn't want to keep, making $22 million a year, coaches who have this massive impact are making half of that, right? And so it's just like, it's cool to see, but we would be so remiss before moving on from this game if we didn't talk about the defense. Seattle's defense looks excellent. Like, I'm resisting any inclination to compare them to the Legion of Boom that was filled with Hall of Famers, but that was a defense that just lined up and said, we got more talent than you. This is a defense that is talented and is outsmarting opposing play callers and quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it just felt like a miracle when Jaden Daniels attempted a pass. I mean, his head was spinning, and I think Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback. I think he's a smart quarterback. I think he usually knows where his answers are and then can make plays when he's off schedule. But he was just having such a tough time in that game. I think they've gotten healthier. I think their front has really gotten better. Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams got a lot of pub in that game, and rightfully so. He's had an incredible couple of years here. I like what they did with the DeMarcus.
How many defensive lines are better than Seattle's right now?
That's a good question. I would have them top 10 for sure. I feel like my gut tells me I would be very tempted to have them top 5, but I can't say that definitively. So
they just don't have that game-wrecking edge that some of those others do.
You know what, though? Yeah, it is interesting. Is that now you obviously want the
but they've recreated it in the aggregate.
Yes, they have. Because I was looking at the numbers earlier. They have 4 players who have over 20 pressures. Like that is uncommon to have that many guys. And so it's not a front where you come in and you say, all right, what's our plan for Myles Garrett? What's our plan for Micah Parsons? But that can make life difficult because how many offensive lines? I mean, we've talked about it before. I think that the offensive line is a weak link system where you're kind of only as good as your worst guy. And so that worst guy against the Seahawks' 4th best pass rusher, that's going to be a win for the Seahawks, pretty much every week. Whereas a team like the Browns, their 4th best, they have Myles Garrett, but their 4th best pass rusher might not be able to take advantage of the weak link on the opposing offensive line. So yeah, the front's awesome. They've obviously invested in that secondary. Man, I loved the Nick Eamon-Worry pick during the draft. I was like, oh, this is a
Did you see that play made on Deebo fighting through the block? Is Deebo Samuel the hardest wide receiver in the NFL to stop in his tracks with one arm?
Yeah, he's had so many reps. Like if you put together just a sizzle reel of like his top 10 plays, I mean, there have been plays where he's running down the middle of the field with, I forget who it was, 3 weeks ago, where it was like a very fast wide receiver and there was no separation. He was just all over him. He can make plays at the line of scrimmage. He is just such a fun player, like a one-of-one athlete in a league that is filled with incredible athletes. Athleticism actually sticks out, and we know what they got in Witherspoon. So, it's just a great blend of, like I said earlier, coaching, scheme, talent, vets, young guys who can get better. That mix has really come together beautifully for them.
Today is the NFL trade deadline, and like I said, by the time you guys are hearing this, whatever moves that are gonna happen will have happened, but the thing about the NFL trade deadline is it's definitely like a masturbatory exercise for football fans, right? Where it's like, oh man, if we add Breece Hall or, whoever, whatever great player on bad team, if we just add them to our team. And it's not like baseball where, sure, there might be some cultural differences. Maybe you hit in a different spot in the lineup or slot in a different spot in the rotation. You're still playing baseball. It's not like basketball where most teams are still running the same set of plays. In the NFL, you are learning a new language when you switch teams. And so that's why you don't see a whole lot of high profile. Also, it's tough to make salaries work with midseason trades in the NFL. But you don't see a lot of midseason trades more recently, but not a ton compared to other sports because it's so hard to get acclimated. That being said, if you're John Schneider, you're 6-2, you're in a virtual tie for first place in the NFC. Are you trying to make moves, or do you attempt to keep your draft capital intact and roll with the roster that you got?
Yeah, it all depends, obviously, on the opportunities that are out there. I don't look at them and say, hey, if they made this one move, then it would all change their ceiling. Like their ceiling's already a Super Bowl contender. So I think it would probably have to be somebody who's going to help me, not just a rental. I don't know that makes sense unless like it's hard because for them, what would you say? Guard is probably right.
I would rank it right guard, off ball linebacker, which I would have said even before the Ernest Jones injury.
Okay.
And then probably wide receiver 2. Yeah, but they threw a lot of money at Cooper Kupp, who at this point is just kind of a part-time blocker, and Torrey Horton is starting to emerge as maybe that guy. But to your earlier point, there are going to be teams that just say beat us without JSN, and I don't know that they have that guy. That said, I don't know if that guy's out there this year. And then I would say 4th is corner if you trade Reek Woolen, but I'm not in the camp that says if you're contending, you create additional needs at the trade deadline.
I agree. If you have one of the best defenses in the NFL and he is playing for you, I don't understand why you would, get rid of, especially it's not like you're getting a first round pick for him.
That's right.
It's not going to be worth it to trade away someone like that. So I'm with you on wide receiver 2. I don't know who that guy is,
Calvin Ridley, maybe?
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
he's 31 and he's expensive. So I would be a no on that unless they're picking up a chunk of his salary. You look at what kind of player. Like I look at those Saints wide receivers and you could sell me on a Rashid Shaheed, but isn't Horton
He's kind the other guy I was going to ask about.
Rashid Shaheed is supposed to, because he is somebody who's not going to cost a lot. He's played in the
Kubiak
scheme.
familiarity.
Kubiak familiarity. He's played in the scheme before. Last year of his contract, and you're probably talking about, I don't know, maybe a 4th round pick or so, maybe later than that. So maybe that's someone. Chris Olave is a guy I've been looking at for teams. Like I thought the Bills, maybe they.
My pants just got a little tighter.
Because, yeah, I mean, now Olave, yeah, he would be an interesting player for them. Honestly, that would be very interesting if they traded for Olave. I think you're probably looking at. He might require like a 2nd round pick but the thing is he signed for 2026. So now all of a sudden you're saying, hey, we don't need to go address this position in the offseason. He can help us.
Another guy with Kubiak familiarity.
Knows the coach, knows the scheme. So yeah, maybe that would be the most interesting one would be Chris Olave. And I mean, guards is just like, it's really hard to find. Like I could see them adding a depth piece where you say this guy can compete. You really don't just trade for like Pro Bowl caliber guards. It just kind of doesn't happen. So if they do that, kudos to them, but that's not a very common thing that happens in the NFL. And then I would just say like, every team's like, you can always use a little more pass rush, So if it's like a vet who doesn't cost a lot and McDonald's like, I know this guy well, that's just something I feel like every contending team has that somewhere on their list. It might not be one. It might be one for some.
I love it when contenders go out and just get a closer, right? We're not going to ask you to play 60 snaps, but Von Miller, come in the, you're going to play sparingly for 3 quarters and then you're going to dominate in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney, come on in and add extra juice to a pass rush late in the game. I would be into that. A couple of less sexy names that, and I think this is kind of an underrated outcome of that Sunday night game is not only the loss, but the loss plus the Jaden Daniels injury ends the competitiveness of the Commanders season this year. And they've got a couple of guys that I don't think make a ton of sense for them to hang on to if they can get decent return. And that's Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti. And those are a couple of guys that I don't know would have been available if the Commanders won that game on Sunday night. But I don't know that they make a ton of sense, especially if you're no longer protecting your rookie quarterback the rest of this season. They may just say, hey, if we can get a couple of early day 3 picks for these guys, let's do it.
Yeah, it's in honestly, yeah, I think you're talking 6th, 7th round probably for those guys, maybe a pick swap. I mean, guards of that caliber generally don't bring back a lot of draft capital. So if it's about like what I said earlier about the offensive line being a weak link system and you have a weak link there at right guard and you say, how do we we're not looking for an all pro. Let's just raise that floor a little bit. Then something like that would be a smart move for the Seahawks.
All right, we're going to play America's 164th favorite football podcast game. It's the Cigar Thoughts Contender Pretender NFC edition. And I'm just going to go in order to the NFC standings because right now there are 5 teams with 2 losses, none with 1. There's 5 teams with 2 losses, 3 more with 3 losses. It's a very, very crowded picture halfway through the season. So the cutoff for contender or pretender is... will you be shocked if they made the NFC Championship game?
NFC Championship game. Okay, got it.
Shocked. There's lots of surprises every year, but like shocked. If you're shocked, they're a pretender.
Okay.
Start at the top. It's still the Eagles.
Contender. Yes. Yeah.
The Buccaneers.
Ooh, interesting. All right. How about be nice to the Bucs? I'll say contender. I'm on the fence there. I could be talked about pretender for them, but I think if NFC Championship game appearance is the bar, I think contender.
I think so too. I think they're straddling the line, but they've got like 60% of their weight on the front foot.
Yeah.
Seahawks.
Contender.
Packers.
Contender.
Right? Doesn't it feel like they're playing way below their talent level right now?
They are an NBA
They've lost
team.
to the Browns and the Panthers.
Yeah, they're like an NBA team that's like, oh, let's not take this seriously. We'll flip the switch when we get to the playoffs. The problem is they haven't done anything in the playoffs. So I'm like, why are they playing this way? Why are they playing with their food every single week? Tucker Kraft injury is huge.
My gosh.
I thought he was the best tight end in the NFL. That was before Brock Bowers did what he did last week. But I think that's their A game, their A+ game may be better than any other team in the NFC. but I don't trust them. If you ask me, do you trust them? I would say no, but yes, they are a contender for sure.
I agree. I don't think I could have said that any better. The Rams.
Contender. I would say I have 5 teams that I think can get to the Super Bowl in the NFC, and the Rams are on that list. They've got the pedigree, they've got the coach, they've got the quarterback, they've got the young pass rush, the offense works well, they've got the wide receiver one. I really like that Rams team. I think Rams Seahawks in 2 weeks here? That's going to be a fun game.
And at the end of the season.
Love it.
Yeah, I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC so far this year.
Okay.
They've allowed the fewest points, and it's not just that like they have some dominant defense. They have a very good defense. They've allowed the fewest points in the NFC because their offense just keeps getting first downs.
Yeah.
I mean, what the Saints had 16 minutes time of possession in the last game. It's
40
the 13th
plays, I think they ran. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. 13th lowest time of possession in the Super Bowl era, right? We're talking 50 some years at this point. That's what the Rams do to you. The Lions.
Contender. I think they're coming off a bad game, but I still think they're going to be there.
The Bears.
Pretender.
All right, we got our first pretender. I'm right there with you. I've been in agreement with you on all of these. The next team in the NFC is the Panthers at 5-4.
Oh my gosh, pretender! Come on, let's not waste our time. What are we talking about?
The Vikings.
Pretender. No, they're not making the NFC Championship.
Okay. So
I don't think you mentioned. Did you mention the Niners? I think did you skip the Niners?
I did skip the Niners.
Okay.
Boy, you talk about Freudian, man. You get some subconscious hatred leaking through into this show. The 49ers, thank you very much. The 49ers, contenders, pretenders with all those injuries.
Pretenders. They
I think so.
I'm impressed with what they've done so far. You can't lose that many guys on defense and still make it.
Okay. So, second half of the game. This is all the teams that we just said were contenders. Okay, it's the Seahawks and 5 others, which is kind of crazy to think that there's 6 teams that you wouldn't be shocked to make the NFC Championship game in November. Neutral field, you got to bet $10,000. Which of these teams are you betting on the Seahawks to beat? Like I said, neutral field, and we're going to assume relative health, right? Whatever season-ending injuries are out there, they're out there, but we're going to assume relative health otherwise.
Right now, right now. They're playing today.
Right now, they're playing next. Okay. They're playing next week on a collegiate field in Nevada.
Okay.
Eagles versus Seahawks. $10,000.
I would still go Eagles. Just the big game pedigree of Jalen Hurts versus not knowing with Sam. I think the Seahawks have played better.
That is the one thing we haven't seen from Sam Darnold yet.
That'll be a theme for me, probably with these picks. But I think the Seahawks have played better this season. I think they have a better body of work. But if you told me one big game, I would probably still go with the defending champs.
I would too. The Eagles have outscored their opponents by 23 points. The Seahawks have outscored their opponents by 81.
It's crazy.
But $10,000, your wife's life on the line. You're going with the Eagles. I'm going with the Eagles.
Yeah.
Until I see otherwise. All right. Bucks, Seahawks, neutral field. Buccaneers beat the Seahawks in Seattle earlier this year.
Yeah.
Seattle's much healthier. That was their first game without their top 3 players in the secondary, and you could tell nobody was in the right spot. They lost by 3. It was a shootout. Very fun game. Right now, who are you taking in that one?
I got the Seahawks, and I don't really have to think about that one that hard. I think the Bucks have had some flukiness. I think giving McDonald, like you said, a healthier defense and another shot at Baker Mayfield and that offense, I would be confident that he would cook something up. And their offense, Seahawks offense, was not a problem in that game, scoring 35 points or whatever it was.
It was 35. Yeah. Seahawks, Rams.
Woo! Oh, man, that is tough.
Is there a more watchable game in the NFL right now?
Yeah, that sounds pretty
Seahawks,
exciting. Rams? I'm excited for that one. I think I probably would go Rams for a similar reason I said with the Eagles. I've just seen Stafford.
Man.
I've seen McVay do it before. They're not an offense where you're going to be like, oh, we cooked something up that really confused them. and they didn't have answers, so it becomes more of an execution game than hey, our game plan really cooked them type game. But I don't feel great about it. But yeah, I think I would go Rams. You could honestly, we'll get to the other ones, but you could probably flip a coin with the rest of them.
Yeah. I think so. I lean the Rams on this one right now. And the reason for it is they are borderline as efficient passing the football as Seattle has been this year, but they're doing it with pedigree. Seattle's not doing it with any pedigree. Sam Darnold does not have pedigree yet. Jacson Smith-Njigba is creating his pedigree right now. The Rams have it with Stafford, obviously, Hall of Famer, 20 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this year. And he has 2 options that will beat your best defender in Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, of course. They're running the ball extremely well. I think they had like 42 handoffs in this last game. Blake Corum came in. They didn't miss a beat. Their defense is good. I'd lean Rams a little bit on that one, but it feels like if they played 10 times, it's like 5-5 or 6-4, one way or the other. Lions, neutral field, Seahawks.
Are we inside? Are we outside? What's this Nevada? Woo! What's this Nevada situation?
Outside with good weather.
Outside with good. This is a tough one because I could really see. I mean, we saw it last week again that if you pressure,
I don't think the Vikings did anything Seattle can't do.
Yeah, Flores. That was a throwback. Just put this guy in a blender, and I think Mike McDonald would watch that and would be able to do the same thing. I do like the Lions. I believe in the Lions. That would be an interesting one for the nerds like me with the in-game management because Dan Campbell would be going for it. And I think Mike McDonald might be getting a little conservative, say, nope, I've got an awesome defense. We're punting.
You know what's shitty? Is a game that good would come down to who makes their field goals.
Yeah. That's true. You know what? Let's all right, this weekend, let's go with the Seahawks. I do feel pretty confident that their defense would show up in a big way in that game. So 20 minutes from now, I might change my mind. So if you hear me on like another podcast saying something differently, I'm not a fraud. I'm just changed my mind,
don't placate me here. Don't placate me here.
No, I'm going Seahawks.
All right.
It's just gut. What are you feeling at this very moment in time? I'm old. The gut changes. Very very quickly.
I'm gonna take the Seahawks, but it's that coin is in the air and you don't feel good about the outcome, right?
That's been the hardest one for me so far. Seahawks.
I think so. Yeah. Seahawks Packers.
Oh, this is like, man, do you want the team that you feel great about right now? The team you feel like, what are they doing right now? Or
who has a better roster?
Who has a better roster? That's a good question. I think the Packers definitely have more top end talent.
I agree.
In terms of depth, like which defensive personnel would I rather have? I think probably the Seahawks overall, if you're saying all the players.
I think the Seahawks beat the Packers right now.
Yeah.
Like I feel more comfortable with that than I do about the Lions or the Rams.
Yeah. I'm still going to go Packers.
Okay. Here's the thing. Jordan Love is such a vibes-based quarterback that he's like one of those shooters in basketball where if you give him a couple of easy buckets early on, it could be a Deion Waiters situation and he could drop 45 on you. But if he misses the first 4 shots, he might go 3 for 20 from the field.
Yeah, I know.
And I think Mike McDonald would put him in that position. Last one. Seahawks 49ers, neutral field. The Niners did beat the Seahawks in week 1 in Seattle. I don't think either team in going into week 10 looks the same as they did coming out of week 1.
Yeah, they're 2 different teams. That's the Seahawks for me. That's a pretty easy one. Again, I respect what the 49ers coaching staff has done, keeping them at this point despite all those injuries. But I think their ceiling is limited when you don't have Bosa, you don't have Warner, you don't have Michael Williams now. It's just, you can't survive that many injuries in the NFL.
Man, they just seem so cursed from injury standpoint for like 6 straight years now. Nothing worse than that Drake Greenlaw injury running off the sidelines in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's like just a microcosm of what Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and the rest of them have been dealing with, and just running out contenders year after year. But they just don't have any of the horses left. They're still good enough to outcoach bad teams, but I don't think they got the Jimmies and the Joes to beat a team like Seattle right now. Sheil, you've been amazing today. Last question for you. Who is in the NFC Championship game? Who is in the AFC Championship game? Who wins those? And who's your champion?
Oh my gosh. All right. A little midseason reset. I'm going to stick with my Super Bowl prediction from the preseason, because I feel like if you make a Super Bowl prediction in the preseason and it's not like totally screwed at the midway point, you just stick with it. So I'm going to stick with that. In the NFC Championship game, I'm going to say Eagles, Lions, and the Eagles beat the Lions. How fun would
that be? That's the game we should have got last year if it wasn't for all those defensive injuries for Detroit.
And then
that was the game we deserved. Aren't they playing this week? They're playing this week, right?
2 weeks. They play the Eagles Packers this week, Eagles Lions next week. So there will be some measuring.
We're going to see some shuffling.
Seahawks Rams in 2 weeks. So yeah, there's some measuring stick games in the NFC coming up here for sure.
Okay,
AFC,
so Eagles over Lions. All right.
Bills over Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to be just fine. But my preseason pick was Bills over Eagles in the Super Bowl. And the NFL's wide open. I mean, you could pick, this is a crazy year. There is no juggernaut, but I'm going to stick with that Bills over Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Okay. I like it. I have pivoted from my early season predictions. I'm a big fan of letting new information influence my opinions. I think the Rams do what they came closer than any team came to doing last year. I think they beat the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. I think the Bills beat a white hot Ravens team in the AFC Championship game.
I like it.
And then I've got Bills over Rams in what would be one of the all-time enjoyable Super Bowls to watch.
It's a great matchup.
I think the injuries on Baltimore's defense just isn't going to be able to hold up to a team like the Bills, but they have a pretty cakewalk schedule rest of the way. Lamar Jackson is back. He didn't run at all in his first game back and was an MVP caliber player. I think when him and Henry get going, when the snow is on the ground, they're going to be really tough to beat, but the Bills are too much. I think the Bills beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. And you had Bills over Eagles. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we're aligned with the Bills. Crown them now. Your 2025 NFL champion. You heard it on Cigar Thoughts. Sheil, you are the man. Thank you so much for today.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, you bet. Last thing before you get out of here, tell anyone who may not know already where they can get more of your stuff.
Yeah, check out the Ringer NFL show. I do daily episodes around 30 minutes. Too. So very easy for you to listen. And listen, if you want to be a nice person, we're nearing the holiday season. You can rate, you can review, you can go to the YouTube page, maybe subscribe there, leave some nice, make me feel good during during the holidays. There's enough mean people on the internet. You can make me feel good. So I know, my bond with the Seahawks fans, has lasted over now a decade. So that's why I feel comfortable still asking for this little favor for you.
Well, do it. If you're not already listening to Sheil on a near daily basis, you are missing out on real NFL insight. Sheil, you're the man. Thank you. Can't wait to do this again.
All right, my friend. Talk to you soon. Take care.
All right, y'all, that is going to do it for today's show. Another huge thank you to Sheil Kapadia on one of the busiest days of the NFL season, carving out some time this morning to chat with us. Hope y'all enjoyed it. As always, you can find Mike and I on social media as well. I am on Twitter and Blue Sky at Jacson Bevins. That's Jacson. Remember that no K is okay when spelling my name. Mike is on both at Mike Barwin, and the show itself is at Cigar Thoughts on Twitter and at CigarThoughtsNFL.com on Blue Sky. You can catch full video episodes on our YouTube channel at Cigar Thoughts. Find the rest of our socials at CigarThoughtsNFL.com. As mentioned previously, This episode is brought to you by Balvenie Premium Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Y'all know I'm a huge fan of their lineup, and we are thrilled to have them on board as a sponsor of the show. And one of the great things about a great Scotch is how well it plays with a good cigar. So once again, we do have our own special release of cigars that you can purchase at a terrific price as a listener of the show. The release of these Cigar Thoughts Stogies has been successful enough for us to continue offering them for the low price of $149. That's right, only $149 for a bundle of 10. And if you're wondering, why am I paying $15 for a cigar? Once you have them, you'll understand, especially if you have had cigars for less elsewhere, because these, when banded and branded by the company that actually manufactures them, sell for $35 to $40 a stick. It's a great value. And just, we are thrilled to be able to offer them to y'all as listeners of the show. And, you know, look, like I say every week, we have partnered with one of the most prestigious cigar manufacturers in the world to release these official Cigar Thoughts cigars, which you can order directly from cigarthoughtsnfl.com. Just follow the link on the show page to get these easy to smoke stogies rolled with 13-year aged premium Dominican tobacco leaf, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. We'll send you the details directly. The cigars come with a Boveda humidification pack and a Mylar storage bag to make sure they stay fresh whether you have a humidor or not. Of course, you can listen to this show at fieldgoals.com and everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and you like the show, drop us a 5-star rating, leave a quick review. On YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe. Any feedback that you guys can give in the comments after each episode, super appreciative. The goal is to keep making the show better, make it as good as it possibly can be, and your feedback is super helpful for that. So thank you to all of y'all listening for your continued support of this show. We know that you've only got so much time for podcasts in your life, and it's an honor to be a part of that for y'all. Please know that by sharing the show on social media and with your friends, you give us the juice to keep making this happen. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, onwards and upwards, my friends.